Manchester United reject 20 million euros deal with Fiorentina for Sofyan Amrabat. Manchester United have also received 3 inquiries from Premier League rivals for Mason Mount, and Erik ten Hag says Scott McTominay is not for sale. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this evening's live show, but before we get into that, please do me one small favour. Smash a like on today's video. Let's try and see 1,000 likes on this evening's episode. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe to the channel. I'm live every single day at 8:30, 1:30 and 6 p.m. So if you want to keep up to date with all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk, this is the best way to do it. Make sure to get involved. Everyone is welcome here on Daily Red Devil. Right, so much to get into on the show this evening. And the first place that I want to start is on Scott McTominay. And I've got a question for you. Should Manchester United sell Scott McTominay this summer? I want you to get in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on McTominay. He's got 1 year left of his contract. Obviously, he's come through the youth academy, not on big wages, hardworking. His head never seems to drop. Those are his positives. But in relation to his negatives, I think other than scoring goals, he doesn't really offer us much in that midfield. And I don't think that's being harsh. As a specialist CDM, he doesn't do it. And as a normal centre midfielder, he doesn't do it. I think as a second striker, he's a decent option. He's only on 60k a week, which I think is pretty reasonable for him. You know, when you think we've got people like Casemiro on 350k a week, you've got Christian Eriksen on 150k a week, etc., etc. 60k for McTominay is not the end of the world. Now, obviously, for anybody who missed out on the shows during the week, Manchester United rejected a bid of £17 million from Fulham. I think that was on maybe Wednesday last week. Man United apparently are asking for £30 million. There's interest from Tottenham, Fulham, West Ham, and apparently also Galatasaray, although Galatasaray apparently can't pay the 30 million that we're asking for. So they're effectively out of the race. But there is a serious interest from Premier League clubs for Scott McTominay. Erik ten Hag was asked about this in a press conference earlier on today. And these are Erik ten Hag's direct words on McTominay. He says, "We want to keep McTominay at the club next season because he's a very important player for us. We've seen what he contributed last year." I hope that this is just a negotiation tactic. Again, I want you to have your opinion as well. This isn't all just about me. This is about coming together, sharing opinions and having conversation. That's the whole purpose of this channel. So if you disagree with what I'm saying and you think that McTominay should stay, please let me know your reasons. I'm not going to shoot you down. I'm going to read them and I'm going to, we'll have a conversation. So do let me know. But for me personally, I just think we can do better. I think in a team like Fulham, McTominay would be good. I think he'd do really well there. But for a team that's aspiring for what? We want to win the league, don't we, at some point? Is McTominay good enough to be in a league-winning side? No. Is he good enough if Mainu gets injured? Could we rely on McTominay to play instead of him and win a league? No. So, and I know people are like, oh, well, you need to have squad players and all the rest of it, but he's been here his whole career. He's not getting any better year on year. He's just the same. He's good going forward, but not good at defending and not good at actually doing his real job. So for me personally, I hope that this is just a negotiation tactic from Erik ten Hag because, he can't come out and say, oh, McTominay's for sale, we don't want him. Like, you just simply can't do that. Not at Manchester United. So I hope and I pray that this is just a negotiation tactic. Let's do a poll, shall we? And see what people think. Okay, I'm going to set up a poll for you lot quickly. Should United sell McTominay this summer? There you go, the poll's set up. So anybody who's watching back on repeat, obviously you can't get involved in the poll because it's only on the live videos. But if you are watching live, you can get involved in the poll. If you're watching back on repeat, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Should Manchester United sell Scott McTominay this summer? Erik ten Hag seems to think that we shouldn't. But as I said, if you flip that on its head, the likelihood of Erik ten Hag coming out and saying, yes, we should 100% sell him is probably quite slim. Because effectively, if he did that, McTominay's value just drops immediately because you know that he's up for sale. That's effectively what happened with Jadon Sancho, wasn't it? Everybody thought that Sancho and Erik ten Hag had fallen out, and everybody then was like trying to do loan deals. Sancho's now back in the first team, and anybody who wants Jadon Sancho now is going to have to pay money for him. Whereas a month ago, they thought they could all get him for free on loan and we'd pay his wages. And I hope and pray that this is a similar situation here with McTominay, where Erik ten Hag's just come out and said what he has to say and not what he actually means. But you never know, do you? Like, Jose Mourinho looked like McTominay. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer liked McTominay. I think Ragnick liked McTominay. Like, all of our managers over the last kind of 3 or 4 years, 5 years, have all liked McTominay. And he seems to be one of those players that just is indestructible, you know? The fans have question marks about him, but the managers all seem to love him. It's strange. It's really strange, but I personally think that it's because of his attitude, because he's hardworking. He probably doesn't complain. He seems to be really smiley around the training ground, like a nice person to be around. And I know you're probably sat there at home saying, we're Manchester United. Why are we keeping players who are smiley and like to have a bit of fun? But to me, that's what McTominay is like. When I see him, all the training videos, he's always smiling. He's always being polite. He's always kind of chatting to the people doing the videos behind. Do you know what I mean? You get that impression from him that he's probably a bit of a character around the training ground and stuff. Whereas there might be other players, say like Jadon Sancho, who are a bit more introverted. They might come to a training session and they might not say anything for a whole session. And people might say that that's them having a bad attitude, you know? And I think that McTominay is probably very extrovert from what I've seen of him. And when he does interviews and stuff, he's very like confident. And I think it has to be that, because I can't see why else anybody would see anything else in him. If he, as I said, right, with McTominay, if he was playing as an attacking player, as a second striker to get you a goal in the last minute of a game, I think he's a good player to have. But as a starting player for Manchester United, or someone that we're actually genuinely going to rely on, I just don't think he's good enough. And when you think that we could get 30 million for him, and the main point that we have to focus on here, right, is there are actually clubs who want to sign McTominay. Whereas there's always people screaming at me, why have we not sold Jadon Sancho? Sell Jadon Sancho, it's a disgrace. You could only sell players that clubs want to buy, right? And people are bidding for McTominay. Fulham have. Tottenham want him. West Ham want him. Galatasaray wanted him. There are multiple clubs who want to sign McTominay this summer. And it's our opportunity to actually raise some funds. Whereas Jadon Sancho, nobody wants to buy him. Marcus Rashford, nobody wants to buy him. Harry Maguire, nobody wants to buy him. So you can only sell when there's a market. And there is a market for McTominay. So yeah, my take on McTominay is going to stay the same. It's not going to change. I don't think he's good enough to take us to the next level. And the next level is probably what? Second or third? It's baby steps, isn't it? We finished 8th last season. Obviously, that was terrible. The season before that was 4th. I would say an achievement would be like finishing 2nd now, wouldn't it? That would show improvement. And I just don't genuinely believe that McTominay is a player who can bridge the gap from 8th to 2nd. You know, when you look at, say, Man City, you look at Man City's midfield. If Rodri's injured, they've got so many options in that midfield that although it's bad if Rodri gets injured, they have got other options, you know. Whereas if say, Kobe Mainoo or Bruno gets injured, you're looking at McTominay and Mason Mount. And that's why we're so far behind teams like Man City, because they have such a good squad that even if they have an injury, like you look at Man City, right? If Rodri gets injured, they've got Mateus Nunes, who they spent 50 million on. They've got Mateo Kovacic, who I know is old, but is a good player. They've got Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, a couple of others as well. Like they've got 5 or 6, like verging on world-class midfielders, whereas we arguably have only got 1, and that's Bruno. And some would say that he's not even world-class. So if one of these players gets injured and then we're relying on McTominay, like it's just not good enough. So that's my take on it. But obviously, I'd be interested to see what other Manchester United fans have to say. Let me know in the comment section. Raworski says, I think they like him because he's low maintenance, he's hardworking, and that's why the managers like him. Yeah, I would agree with you, mate. I agree. Like, it's the only reason that he has stayed, I think, over these years, is because he has a good attitude, he works hard, and he's low maintenance. You know, he doesn't sulk, he doesn't drop his head, he doesn't call out managers in the press, he doesn't turn up late to training. He's probably like, you know, like when you're in school and there's that one kid who's like the teacher's pet. I see McTominay as the teacher's pet to me. You know, he's the perfect student. He might not be the cleverest. Obviously, this is talking in a school analogy. He might not be top of the class from an educational perspective, but he's always on time. He's always polite. He's always friendly. He doesn't fall out with people. Like that. That's who McTominay is to me. And obviously, because he's come through the youth academy, it gets him extra brownie points as well, you know, because we like to be proud of our youth academy, which I am proud of. I'm proud of our youth academy. But yeah, so for me, we should move him on. Some people in the chat are getting really upset about McTominay staying. But the thing you have to remember is, right, before I move on, Erik ten Hag has to say this. If he comes out and says that McTominay's for sale, he's rubbish, we don't want him, then his price just drops. So although it's disappointing to hear these words that Erik ten Hag wants to keep McTominay, I would be very surprised if he said anything else. But let me know what you think. Should McTominay stay at Manchester United? Get involved in the comment section. Everyone who's just joined the video, if you could do me a small favour and smash a like, that would be really, really appreciated. I've set a likes target of 1,000 for today's video. If everybody who's watching the video right now hits the like button, we will hit that target. And we did also, about an hour ago, hit 32k subscribers, which is amazing. The next milestone on the channel. We're only a couple away from 32,100 now. So if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe. It's completely free content and everyone is welcome. People are laughing in the comment section about my teacher's pet comment. It's true though, isn't it? He is like the teacher's pet. I honestly think that. And that's not a bad thing. It just shows that he's got a good attitude, a good mentality. He's just not the best player. But let's move on from the teacher's pet, though. I don't think that's being harsh. Like, yeah, I think that's a fair comment to say he's like the teacher's pet. But let's move on from Scott McTominay. I don't want to focus on him too much. And let's move over to Sofyan Amrabat then, shall we? Because we've spoke about this guy a lot, and there's a lot of mixed opinions. We will do a poll on Sofyan Amrabat. Let me just set that up for you now. So the first question I asked you on today's show was, should Manchester United sell McTominay this summer? 79% of people watching today's video say yes. 21% of people say no. Okay. And the next poll we're going to do is, should Manchester United sign Amrabat? Again, if you're not watching the video live, you can get involved in the comment section. Should United sign Amrabat? There we go. The poll is set up. Anybody watching live, get involved. And I'll bring you the news first, and then we can kind of discuss it and give our opinion. So the headline coming out from Fabrizio Romano in the last couple of hours is that Manchester United have apparently rejected the proposal. There was a release clause. I'll go into all the details, but effectively Manchester United had the opportunity to sign Sofyan Amrabat for 20 million euros. This was part of the original deal that we negotiated with Fiorentina. So for anybody who's unaware, this time last year, we signed Amrabat on loan. We paid a loan fee of about 10 million euros. And then at the end of the loan, we had, I think, a month to decide whether we wanted to sign him permanently. And if we wanted to sign him permanently, we would have to give Fiorentina 20 million euros. So we've effectively rejected the opportunity to sign him on a permanent deal for 20 million euros. Fabrizio says that Manchester United have now informed Fiorentina that they will not be going ahead with the 20 million euros buy option in Sofyan Amrabat's contract. I would agree with that. I think 20 million is way too much for a player with only 1 year left of his contract who wants to leave, is 28 next year. And yeah, I think 20 million is way too much, to be honest. We've already given them 10 last season, plus paid his wages. So that would take him to nearly a 30 million euros signing if we give them the full 20. So yeah, for me, I agree with that. It's about 17 million pounds, which is quite a lot, I think, for someone who's just about to turn 28. When you think of what else is available on the market, 17 million pounds obviously isn't a hell of a lot of money. It's a relatively small amount, but yeah, when you think of how much budget we've got for this season, 17 million pounds is still quite a lot. You know, that's half of the price we paid for Xerxes, and he's a 22-year-old who just won Young Player of the Season in the Serie A. It's nearly just under half of what we paid for Lenny Yoro, who's 18 and one of the most exciting centre-backs in the world, you know? So I don't think 17 million pounds for Amrabat is a particularly good deal. And the reason why it's a good deal is this. He's not a bad player. I think he's a good squad player, but he only has 1 year left of his contract. He's apparently handed in a transfer request at Fiorentina. He's not training with the Fiorentina first team. He wants to leave. He's told them he wants to come to Manchester United, right? And for that reason, we have the power in the bargaining negotiations. So there's absolutely zero reason for Man United to pay that release clause. What will now happen, and this is where we'll start the conversation, is Man United will go back to Fiorentina and say, the release clause has now expired, the 20 million release clause. It expired today, apparently, Fabrizio said. But we still want to sign him. So again, it's a really, really clever tactic here from Ineos. Instead of doing the easy option and giving Fiorentina the 20 million euros, they've made them sweat it. As I said, Amrabat's not training. He's handed in a transfer request. He's got 1 year left of his contract. If they don't sell him now, he can sign a pre-contract agreement in January, in 6 months, and they'll effectively get nothing for him. So What I've been told is that Manchester United will now go back in for him with Fiorentina, but on different conditions. I.e., they want to pay a lot less than 20 million euros, because the way they see it is either they pay 20 million euros now, or they wait until January and they get him for free. I mean, that's an absolute no-brainer. I assume not a single person in this chat thinks that paying 20 million euros for Amrabat is worth it when you can get him for free in 6 months, and he's handed in a transfer request and he's not training. So what will happen now is there'll be a new start to the negotiations. Apparently, Manchester United want to pay closer to 12 million euros, which is like 8 million pounds. It's hardly any money at all. Hardly any money. 8 million. I think that would be like a very, very fair. Let me just double check. Yeah. So 12 million euros is 10 million pounds. Apparently, Man United are going to go back to Fiorentina and say, we'll give you 12 million, which is half of the release clause, near enough. Take it or leave it. And for me personally, that would be a bargain. 10 million pounds for Amrabat. You could, though, argue that if they waited until January, they can get him for free. But at the same time, he is a specialist CDM. He is a good squad player. And I think for £10 million, he would be a good addition to the squad. But I definitely agree with Man United's stance that giving them the full 20 million euros release clause is pointless. There is zero benefit of Manchester United doing that because of all the reasons I've said. He's handed in a transfer request. He's not training. And he's already told them he wants to come to Manchester United. So we have all the power in this situation. They either take whatever we offer now or they lose him for free next summer. Now, just to be completely fair and give you all of the reporting, apparently there are other Premier League clubs who are interested in Sofyan Amrabat. So it's not just us. The names that I've been told are teams like Fulham. So it's not a Liverpool or an Arsenal or Man City. It's more like, mid-table teams who are interested in him. We are still the most attractive proposal for Sofyan Amrabat. We're the biggest team that want to sign him. All the others are, like Fulham type teams, right? No disrespect to Fulham. I like Fulham. They're a good team, but they're not they're not playing in Europe, are they? It'd be interesting to see what the rest of you think about Sofyan Amrabat. 12 million euros is apparently what the bid is going to be. I would do it, and it's not just because I look like Amrabat. Before people say that. I just think for 12 million euros, you're really, really going to struggle to get anyone better. And my understanding is that Fiorentina will accept that amount of money because effectively, as I've said many, many times before, if they don't do it now, they'll lose him for free in 6 months anyway. So there is absolutely zero benefit for them keeping an unhappy player who's refusing to train and has handed in a transfer request, paying his wages for 6 months, and then him leaving for free. So, yeah, it's definitely one to keep an eye on. I think it's one that will materialise later on in the window. I still have this feeling that either Casemiro or McTominay will leave. And then when that happens, Amrabat will come as their replacement. And I know Amrabat isn't world-class, but I think he probably is an upgrade on Casemiro at the moment, based on what we've seen of Casemiro. Obviously, if you go back over the last 10 years, Casemiro is world-class. But at this moment in time, Casemiro is definitely past it, I think. Most people would agree. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat. People are saying that Amrabat is mid. I don't think he's mid. I think he's a squad player. I think he's a better option than McTominay is and a better option than Casemiro is. Is he going to win us the Premier League title starting every week? No. But is he a good player to have in your squad? A specialist CDM who in certain games can be deployed? I think yes. But, if Man United now go and sign Ugarte, Rabiot and João Neves, I'm not going to be sitting here crying for Amrabat. I'm just trying to be realistic, Like, if Man United told us that we could have João Neves and Ugarte, I wouldn't even mention Amrabat's name again, ever. But I'm just being realistic. For £10 million in a window where we've got to be very careful with money, I think it presents quite a good deal, a good value for money for someone who is, I think, 27, turning 28. But yeah, you can let me know what you think about Sofyan Amrabat in the comment section below. Do you think he's a good option? I know there's a lot of people, including myself, who want to see Toby Collier get some game time. And I would agree. I would really, really like to see Toby Collier get some game time. I think he's quality. But It's whether he's ready to step up, you know? From what we saw of Toby Collier against Rangers, I thought he was quality, but that was just a friendly against Rangers, you know? How would he be against a Liverpool or a Man City or an Arsenal or even a Fulham or an Everton? Like, it's completely different, isn't it? Somebody in the chat is saying the host is mental. How can you win trophies with Amrabat? I'm not someone who usually shuts down comments or opinions on this channel, but did we not just win the FA Cup like a month ago with Amrabat as the starting midfielder? Amrabat was one of the best players on the pitch against Man City. That's what I'm trying to say to you. In certain games, Amrabat is a useful player to have. I don't know. I think the thing is, right, like, I get it. Like, the fan base want these big, shiny signings. We want João Neves. We want Ugarte. We want 50, 60, 70 million pound players in every position. And that's what we want. And we're Manchester United and we should be having that. But it's just not how it works anymore. Even if you have the money to spend, like Newcastle do, like Man City do now, you can't because of the profit and sustainability thing. So it limits our options, and it's going to take... Sir Jim Ratcliffe said it himself. He said it's going to take 2 or 3 windows before you see a team which is anywhere near able to compete for Premier League titles, you know? Erik ten Hag said the same. He said that he agreed with Ralph Rangnick's comments about open heart surgery and that it would take years for us to get to position to be able to challenge, you know? So I get that people want instant success, and I get that people don't like signing players who aren't the biggest and most exciting name, but it is a squad game, and I think Amrabat does have some qualities, you know, as a backup. Let's see what else we got. But yeah, I definitely think that Collier has massive potential at Manchester United. Toby Collier, I think he's one who will break through into the first team. Against Rangers, he looked like one of the best players on the pitch in that first half, alongside Ahmad, Mount, Sancho, and Lenny Yoro. And I would like to see him get game time. But effectively, I'm just a person sat in front of a camera. I don't know how far Toby Collier is along in his development. Maybe Erik ten Hag's going to have him on the bench next season, you know? Maybe he's going to get loaned out. Like, we just don't know at the moment. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. But yeah, I am excited about the future with the young players we've got coming through, especially Toby Collier. I think he looks quality. So Sadiq says, can we win a trophy with Scott McTominay? Yeah, of course we can. Scott McTominay has won the Europa. He's won the League Cup. He's won the FA Cup as being part of that squad. Of course we can. The thing is, right, it's not any team can win a trophy in a single game. It's about winning the Premier League, where you have to be solid for 38 games. That's the question. And I would agree with you there. Like, Amrabat isn't a player who, coming to Manchester United, is going to suddenly make us win Premier Leagues. That's just not going to happen, I don't think, because he's not that much of a special player. But in certain games, when you need a certain profile, a player like Amrabat is quite useful to have, I think. But obviously, if you disagree, that's completely fine. That's the purpose of this channel. But obviously, I'm not going to have someone saying to me, how can you think that signing Amrabat's going to win us trophies? Because we literally just won a trophy about a month ago with Amrabat starting as the CDM, and he bossed that midfield. If everyone who's just joined could smash a like, that'd be really appreciated. We've got over 1,000 people watching the show live now, which is amazing. I've set a likes target of 1,000 for today's video. So if you haven't done it yet, please go and do that. And we're now less than 10 subscribers away from 32,100. So if you haven't subscribed, please go and get involved. Completely free content. Let's talk about Mason Mount, though. Whilst you're liking the video and subscribing, I will move on to Mason Mount. I'm going to do a poll on Mason Mount because, again, I think it's an interesting conversation starter. The last poll, 70% of people watching the show today think that we should sign Sofyan Amrabat and 30% think we shouldn't. I would agree with that. I think that's, I think that's fair. Amrabat is a good squad player. He's not a good starter. But let's see what people think about Mount. Should United sell Mount this summer? I'm going to say this from the off, all right, on Mason Mount. Before I bring you the news and before I bring you what's been happening with him, I always give players 2 seasons before I judge them. So this time last year, there was a lot of people in the fan base saying, get rid of Antony, he's not good enough, 12 months ago. And I said, give him one more year. At the end of next year, we'll be able to really see how good he is, and then we can make a decision. And I've seen 2 years of Antony, and the jury is out for me. Antony's not good enough for Manchester United. He might have looked good for Ajax in the Eredivisie, but he's not good enough to play for Manchester United. Maybe he could go and play for like a Fulham or like an Everton or a Brentford or someone like that, and he'd probably do okay. But he's not good enough for Manchester United, Antony, right? Now moving on to Mason Mount. I think it's very, very harsh to not give Mason Mount another season. Last season, he had so many injuries. Mason Mount is a quality player. He is very talented. He showed that at Chelsea. And I think that we should give him one more season, 100%. See what he can do. And I was saying this to a friend the other day, like Mason Mount, Jadon Sancho and Rashford, and maybe even Ahmad, they feel like new signings this year. You know, those 4 players. Like, they genuinely feel like new signings. And I'm excited to see Mount, Sancho, Rashford and Ahmad, and to see what they can do this year. It's people like Antony that I'm done with. People like Maguire, people like Lindelof, people like McTominay, who've been here for years when we've just been on the decline and have offered nothing, really. Let's be honest. Rashford has offered stuff. I know people are like, how can you not include Rashford there? But Rashford got 30 goals the season before last. Whereas the other players have all just kind of been average or above average every season. So this year, I feel like it's a massive redemption season for Mount, Sancho and Rashford. And it's the breakthrough season for Amad Diallo. And I can't wait to see what Amad Diallo does this season for Manchester United. Like, I think he's going to be a very, very special player. And I think he is the future of that right wing position. I was saying this on the show this morning. I would start Amad Diallo against Fulham in that first game of the season. And then Garnacho and Rashford can battle it out for the left-hand side. I genuinely feel like that. I don't think Erik Ten Hag will do that personally. I think he'll probably play Rashford and Garnacho. But if I was Ten Hag, Ahmad's starting that game. I think he definitely deserves the opportunity. Every time he's come on in the last kind of 6 months, he's impressed me a lot. So yeah, he would definitely be getting the game time if it was up to me. But in relation to Mason Mount, let me bring you the news then. I've given you my opinion on him. So apparently 3 Premier League clubs have inquired to Manchester United about whether Mason Mount is available for transfer this season. Those 3 Premier League clubs are Aston Villa. Obviously, they're in the Champions League. They've got loads of money. They just bought Amadou Onana for 50 million. Tottenham. And then the other one's Newcastle. I just think it'll be too soon to sell Mason Mount. If someone's going to give us the 60 million we paid for him, then great. But in reality, these clubs are probably sniffing around thinking that they can get a cheap deal because they think that there's a player there that isn't wanted, isn't going to play, blah, blah, blah. Whereas I don't think that's the situation. There will be a reason why we signed Mason Mount. And I still believe, and I know this is a controversial opinion, and I know that some people won't like this, but I still feel like Manchester United saw Mason Mount as Bruno Fernandes's replacement. Not now, maybe next year. Bruno will leave. He's got 2 years left of his contract. He turns 30, I think, next month. At some point in the near future, Bruno will leave, definitely. He might even leave this summer. It's a possibility. And Mason Mount, at the age of 25, who is a central attacking midfielder, why else will have Manchester United signed him? To sit on the bench? Why? Bruno doesn't get injured. Bruno doesn't get dropped. In his 4 years at Manchester United, Bruno's missed 1 game for injury. And he's played pretty much every single other game without fail. Even when he gets injured, he still manages to play. So why would Manchester United pay £60 million to have a backup in a position that never needs to have a backup? I know you always need squad depth, I get that. But we had Eriksen already at that point. So we already had a backup to Bruno in Eriksen. So it didn't really make any sense to me. And I still genuinely believe that they see him as a possible replacement for Mason Mount, you know? Whether or not he's good enough to replace Mason Mount, that's another conversation. But I always try and look at these transfers from the owner's viewpoint, because otherwise it just does your head in. Otherwise you're just sat there scratching your head saying, why the hell have we signed Mason Mount? Why is he the number 7? Why have we given him 250 grand a week to sit on the bench, you know? Like, there isn't any logical reason, is there? There's zero logical reason. The only reason I can think of is that he's Bruno's replacement. You don't give the number 7, the most famous shirt in Manchester United's history, to a player that you've signed just to sit on the bench. You just don't, do you? So, yeah, we'll wait and see what happens with Mason Mount. But as it stands at the moment, 3 Premier League clubs have apparently inquired about signing him. Man United are apparently saying that he's not for sale, but they're always going to say that. It'll be interesting to see how the window goes, but I'm still sticking with my viewpoint. I would not sell Mount this summer. I would give him a chance. I would give him 1 more year, see how he gets on. If he doesn't perform, then maybe next season we have that conversation and maybe it's time to move him on. But I would give him 1 full season and hope and pray that we see the form that we saw under at Chelsea. That's all we can really hope for, isn't it? But yeah, we'll wait and see what happens with that one. Yes. Okay, cool. Final story I've got for you today. A little bit of a shorter show because it is a Sunday, so I'm going to go and chill out for a few hours. Oh, in other news as well, which this is probably going to amuse some people. I was out walking earlier and a seagull did a poo on me. So yeah, that was nice. All down the back of my top. And I was in town and I couldn't wipe it off for hours. So I was walking around town with seagull poo all over me. So yeah, that was fun. I thought you might enjoy that. The final story I wanted to talk about was Antony, another player who has, let's say, mixed opinions over. Some people love him, some people hate him. Oh, hate's a strong word. Some people dislike him and some people like him. Now, Erik ten Hag came out earlier on today being asked about Antony and about whether he was going to stay at Manchester United. What do you all think about Antony? I personally think now Antony's done. As I said, this time last year, people said get rid of him. I said give him the benefit of the doubt. Give him 1 more season. Let's see what he can do. He's been here 2 years and I think he's got worse. So for me personally, I would be looking to ship off Antony. But Erik ten Hag was asked about Antony and he's been very defensive about it, saying that he says that, you know, Antony still has a future at Manchester United and that he still believes that he can come good and all the rest of it. Just like with McTominay, I hope this is just Erik ten Hag trying to retain Antony's value and not undermine him in the press. Because I watch Antony play and 10 minutes of Ahmad against Rangers was genuinely better than anything I've seen of Ahmad. 10 minutes, right, of Amad Diallo but in that game against Rangers yesterday, I was more excited by him than 2 years of Antony. Genuinely. Like, if you put together a compilation of Antony's best bits, he scored a couple of nice goals, don't get me wrong, but 90% of the time, he runs at the defence, turns around, passes the ball back, or runs at the defence, cuts in on his left foot. They know what he's going to do, and the shot is blocked. That's all he does. Whereas Ahmad is like, keeps you on your toes. But yeah, so it looks like at the moment that apparently there's a loan deal being mentioned. Antony's agent has come out talking about it. He says, I see reports about a potential exit on loan. He says Antony's plan is clear. He will stay at Manchester United. He wants to stay. He's only focused on Manchester United. We already spoke about that with the club. So both the agent of the player and the manager, Erik ten Hag, are saying that he's not for sale. Effectively, he's staying. He's not going anywhere. And they believe in him. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. But I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. I will be back tomorrow at 8:30 as normal. Please make sure to smash a like on the video before you go. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're only a couple of subscribers away from 32,100. So if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe. Thank you very much for joining me on the show tonight. Make sure to get in the comment section. Drop a like, drop a subscribe. I'll speak to you all at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow. Bye for now.